What's up, everybody? My name is Kyra, and you are tuning in to the ARkaiVE. If you're joining me again, welcome back. And if this is your first time here, welcome to the ARkaiVE, where I dive into some of my favorite albums out of my own vinyl collection. Today, we are going to be diving into one of my favorites. I listen to these two sing together often, just studying how they do some of the classics, and I think their voices together are beautiful. So let's get into Ella and Louis. This album, Ella and Louis, was released in 1956, distributed by the label Verve Records, and it was produced by Norman Granz. Ella and Louis collaborated on this album to sing some of the most famous jazz standards during this time. On this album, they really focused on vocals, where we normally hear Louis Armstrong and know him as one of the greatest jazz musicians, jazz trumpetists to come from Louisiana. Here we are really starting to dive in and owning in on his vocals. Not only do we have Ella and Louis on this album, we have the Oscar Peterson Quartet. So we have Oscar Peterson on piano, Herb Ellis on guitar, Ray Brown on bass, and Buddy Rich on drums. This is really an iconic album that Norman Granz put together. This record captures two of the most recognizable voices in American music, blending their completely different vocal textures. Ella with her clear, smooth, and technically flawless vocal, with Louis' raspy, gravelly, and deeply expressive vocal. And instead of clashing, we could say that their collaboration creates one of the most charming jazz pairings in jazz history. Producer Norman Granz intentionally put these two together to celebrate American music, especially the Great American Songbook. This album was super important, especially to their record label, because it really cemented Verve Records as the home of jazz recordings in the 1950s. They opened this records with Can't We Be Friends, a playful opener where their personalities immediately shine. Then we have Isn't This a Lovely Day, which is a masterclass in relaxed phrasing and swing. Then we have the classic Moonlight in Vermont. I was literally just listening to this. I try to listen to all the records before I record, and Moonlight in Vermont literally makes me imagine being in this big open field and just staring at the stars and the moon, and just being with somebody, maybe on a pickup truck, in the back of the pickup truck, eating some snacks, drinking some wine. Like, it sets the tone. So Moonlight in Vermont, and in my opinion, this specific recording is one of the most intimate jazz recordings that I've ever heard. And then we have Cheek to Cheek, which turns this Irving Berlin classic into a joyful conversation. This album set the tone for some of the best collaborations to come in the future. Ella and Louis was recorded in Hollywood in 1956 with minimal overdubs and mostly live takes. This is why the album feels so natural. You're hearing these two sing live. It's the first take most of the times. It's just pure chemistry and pure organic vibes, pure connection. We're hearing real musicians connect in real time in one room. During this time, the producer Norman really made it a point to integrate these bands, especially in a time where segregation affected touring and recording. On this album, Ella and Louis, we can count on hearing Ella deliver effortless scat phrasing that I believe influences so many of the R&B singers we love today. We can count on hearing Louis play trumpet in between vocal lines. We also can hear the Oscar Peterson Quartet's swing pocket and just how gently they lay behind the vocals. And above all, yes, it's a duet album, but it really does feel like a musical conversation to me. Like, everybody is just playing their part and just sitting in that pocket that makes you forget that, this was something that had to be organized and everybody had to learn a part. No, everybody is just playing what they know, it feels like, and those are some of my favorite albums that you can really feel the humans playing. And this collaboration was so successful that it led to 2 more collaborations, 2 more duet albums. So we have Ella and Louis in 1956. Then we have Ella and Louis Again, which was released in 1957. And then finally we have porgy&bess, released in 1959. So again, an album in 1956, 57, and 59. We know something had to be working because record labels wouldn't just be pushing these things if it didn't. That means everyone could feel this, and it didn't matter what you looked like, where you came from. They were affecting the market and causing people to want more. And even to today, these records are some of jazz's most beloved albums within jazz history. Something really cool about these 2 and why I really connect to it, specifically Ella Fitzgerald, who was born in 1917 in Newport News, but as a young child she moved to Yonkers, and that's where I'm from. So I've always felt really connected to her. I've always listened to her music, and I studied voice in college, and I remember just like listening to her phrasing and how she delivered so effortlessly, and still to this day trying to take on that, trying to learn as much as I can. And every time I listen to her records, especially with Louis Armstrong, I learned so much, but her being from my hometown, we have statues of her here, and I always feel so blessed and connected to her. So this record is super special to me. Louis Armstrong was born in 1901 in New Orleans, Louisiana, and by the time the 1930s came, he was already a huge jazz star. Within my research, it says that Ella Fitzgerald was a huge fan of his, so it was such a blessing and very beautiful that they got to collaborate and became some of the world's most amazing collaborators and duets that we've ever seen. Imagine being able to link up with one of your greats, one of your idols, one of your, people in your career that you look up to, and then you go on to make that person more successful, so I think that's really cool. And I'm sure that they met recording at the same studios, performing at the same clubs, touring together, so I'm sure they ran into each other multiple times, and when Norman brought them together, it just worked like butter and popcorn. Let's look at the cover for this record. Okay, so this record was gifted to me by my little cousin for Christmas, and so sweet. I've always listened to this album, but having it actually physically has been really special. We have Ella and Louis here, and it's pretty simple. They're sitting down, 2 chairs. They're equally focused in the camera. No one's like in the forefront. It really shows that this was them together. And something I find really interesting is that Louis' trumpet is laying on his lap and his hands are folded. And this album is really where he's showing his vocal abilities. So he really put the trumpet down, for most of it. And he's just locked in with Ella. And during this time in the 1950s, segregation really, and just Black artists in the jazz world, a lot of the times the covers wouldn't have the Black artist's face shown. Sometimes it would be, drawn art or something else, a different photograph. So this is such a bold statement, even to have them on the front like this, because it really showed like this is who they are. And this photo was taken by a photographer named William Claxton. He's done some for Billie Holiday, Chet Baker, Duke Ellington, and also Charlie Parker. Then on the back we have the original liner notes printed onto the actual vinyl cover, the sleeve. Super cool, super simple, and of course this isn't an original print, but this is the cover. So many of us know these 2 to have this iconic duet iconic collaboration, and I hope that you guys listen to some Ella and Louis this week. If you are enjoying these archives, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really enjoying building this channel. If you don't mind, please hit subscribe, like, and check out some of the other videos where we talk. I think the last one we talked about Roberta Flack and her album Chapter 2. The one before that we talked about A Tribe Called Quest. And yeah, I'm just really excited to dive into this. Just tap in, lock in. And thank you guys for watching. You can find me on all social media at bykyra.com. And yeah, love you guys. Peace.